Session 6. Yeah, and then I'll be writing up activities one by one. Okay, guys, then without further ado, let me just quickly jump back to the problem solving, the first slide of the day. Okay, so guys, you might have solved a lot of problems throughout this like 2 weeks of time, and before that also, if you are like involved with the problem solving or some kind of coding programming in your first year, second year, any time, right? So you might have created your own way. So it's like it is not a fixed way, I should say. The best practices I'm going to share with you, but yeah, you should have your own. I should say, means after learning what is the correct approach, you should create your own problem solving approach, okay, at the end, and you should stick with that. If your problem solving approach has some flaws, then definitely you can discuss those with your mentors, your guide, who can help you to resolve those, like remove those flaws in your approach. Once you get that particular accurate problem solving approach, I guess you will be able to solve almost all the interview questions and all the problem solving questions what we get, definitely, if they are like based on the concepts what we have covered so far. So what we have, and once you get the problem, okay, let me start with asking a quick question. You can reply in the chat box here. So what do you guys start with? Suppose I have given you a homework exercises or activity, right? In my previous 5 sessions, I used to share that problem statement with you. I just give that function name, taking input and return, right? That's what I used to do. And I used to ask you guys that start writing code. Okay, so what do you think, according to you guys, should be the proper approach? You can write like first should be read, then understand, then write, something like that. Just let me know your approaches, like what you are doing so far. Don't just go to the slides for now. It's yours, like your way. I just want to know your way. Read question first. Okay, Ashu, absolutely right. Then Ashwini, read problem and write down the facts involved. Okay. Thorough reading. Okay. Another good one. First to understand the problem, right? So how do you understand the problem? That's what my question is. We know that we have to write. We have to read, understand, and write the code. That's it. Like we have to do it. It's not like your approach. It's the demand. It's the requirement. But how do you achieve those things? How do you read? How do you understand? How do you solve? Those all are the topics which we are going to discuss today. Go from one test case to other. After going through the slides, start solving the problem, reading, then try some test cases, check the constraints for time complexity, then try pseudocode, then code. Okay. Read the problem multiple times, pick the important words in the problem. Exactly. Robin is towards the absolute approach. Explain to someone in simple manner. There is no one to explain. You have to explain to yourself. And try to align my code with test cases. Read the questions and understand the... Exactly. Yeah. So I see that most of you guys have almost correct approaches. Still, we'll be discussing some more. Okay. So first question, like the first milestone, I've just divided them into quick milestones, I should say. First milestone should be understanding the problem clearly. Okay. Sometimes what happens, you see a problem, it's like a reverse a string, right? And then suppose the last time we had a question, right? Reverse a number, reverse an integer. So you might be thinking of only of number inbuilt methods. Okay, this is how I can use in my questions or that, something like that. A few guys, what I saw yesterday, they just knew that, okay, how can we convert from number to string to number, right? So they quickly, what they did, they converted a number to string, and then they knew, right, all the string methods and build methods. So they just reverted a string and then again converted back a string to number and return it. So for that, you have to understand the problem clearly, that it is problem of numbers or strings. Suppose it looks like a problem of numbers. Can you solve through strings also? That's how you have to understand it. It's not like if they're asking one, they have given one input and you have to take out one output. That's it. So basically, first, definitely you have to read a problem. While reading, how should be your approach of reading? Okay, I'll tell you. Suppose there is one question written that, okay, given a function, name this. So your mind should start picking up the important words, the facts somebody has written in the chat box. So not facts, I should say, important keywords, I should say, from the problem statement. Suppose a function is given to you. you know that, okay, function is given to me. Okay, so we have to keep that in our mind while scanning from left to right. You know, I told you in the first session how that interpreter works, line by line. So that's how your mind should also interpret every line. And while it was interpreting, you have to keep in your mind what are the special keywords and what are the requirements, like what will be helping me to achieve my solution. Given a function, okay, it's a function, that means it might be having some input and it will be returning output. Okay, we have to return a string. Okay, so one thing is like we have to suppose a reverse string. Okay, so second thing is what I have to return. I know that it's a function, it would be taking an input. What kind of input it would be taking might be given some test case, right? Okay, so these are the input sets, this is the range of input sets which will be given to me. Now return a string. Okay, suppose then I have to think, okay, so I am taking, suppose it's a question, I'm taking numbers and returning a string. So I have to keep in mind that, okay, these are two different data types I have to play with, right? I have to be aware of how to convert a string into number to string, even though I learned that, but yeah, just I have to keep in my mind. Next line you read it, it will give you definitely some constraint, right? Because this plain, nobody will ask you some plain question, right? One line or two line. Next would be some constraint. Okay, suppose all the strings will be of capital letters or the lowercase letters. Then I have to keep in mind, like again, I have to keep those facts or those I should say special keywords which will be helping me to achieve my solution. Okay, all this is the way you have to read it. Your brain should work like an interpreter, and it should store the special keywords in the problem statement. This is what I would suggest. Okay, in that sense, once so this is one of the best way to understand a problem, because here we are not given like 2 hours or 3 hours just to solve one question. We have been given 45 minutes at max to solve a question, so we have to be quick. Definitely you have to read it twice or thrice, because first time you'll read just you could pick only 2 or 3 keywords, right? Second time you'll be picking maybe one more. Third time, if you read a question, right, that time you'll be picking all the important keywords in the question, in the problem statement. And that's what it is called, a perfect reading of a problem statement. Okay. I'll give you throughout the session today, we are going to discuss and follow this approaches only which we are learning. Okay. So don't worry, I'll be giving you a real life example. Like, okay, this is a problem statement. This is how my mind should scan the words. This is how I should be storing these keywords. And this is how I'll be going ahead. Yeah, so this thing, if it's suppose a one-on-one interview, you should ask questions or clarify with your interviewer. Most of the time, suppose first round, you might not get as a one-on-one. You will be getting a HackerRank test, HackerEarth, or LeetCode somewhere right there. Then everything will be given there. So that's how like you have to read at least thrice. Okay. Suppose one-liner question in your one-on-one interview has been given. You can ask your questions and clarify all the doubts, whatever you have to from your interviewer. Then. So by reading the questions, I meant to say input output also, right? Suppose 2 inputs and 2 outputs, like sample one you have been given. So you have to check those also. This is a part of reading only. This is all about reading and understanding a problem. Second milestone I should discuss about, finalize the approach and execution plan. Okay, now what you have to do is, you know that I have to reverse a string. That's it. Okay, even I have given, suppose reverse an integer. Okay, now what I'll say that, okay, how will I do this? Means, so what all it's kind of achieving solution to a problem, and what all you have as a concept, right? But like for a war, what do we say that all these sword what we have, right? We have like guns and also what all these for us is programming constructs to solving problem. What all we have is what are like our strengths, I should say. Okay, so I am quite comfortable with for loop, while loop. So loop is a programming construct which I am quite comfortable with. Can I apply that? Can I go through the entire string one by one using a for loop or any loop? This is my strength. This is I know already. This I have practiced a lot. So this I would be thinking. Okay. Second thing I would be checking that, okay, since it is asking for me like 2 or 3 conditions only, right? Then probably I can go with if else if, nested if, right? If I see, okay, no, it is giving me 4 or 5 cases of scenarios, then I'll be thinking of switch cases. Okay, so these are the programming constructs. Whatever you have learned so far, you have to think that, okay, can I apply this? Can I get this back? So for this, everything you won't get much time. What you have to think is, basically after practice you will get it. Okay, no, without for loop also I'll be able to work this if you understand the data structure and objects, right? Or the properties of that, how do they work. In the simple cases, definitely with for loop or 2 for loops, you'll be able to solve almost all the questions, even though it will be like n square time complexity, which like no one will be accepting, but just saying. So in for now, if you see, you understood the problem, you know how the input looks like, how the output will be looking like, and you finalize that. Okay, I'll be going ahead with for loop now. I'll be going one by one with the strings. I'll keep that. I'll be just reversing or swapping that. Okay, last to one to last, something like that. You have finalized approach. Now the first thing, because your approach could be wrong in a real interview also, right? So you need not to worry about that. What you need to think next is write down in the paper. You need not to write the perfect code in JavaScript or any other language you want. You have to write a pseudocode. Pseudocode is just like anything kind of a for you can write. Not need to write let I equal to 0 semicolon. No need to write all these statements. Just write, okay, I could be starting from 0, then less than equal to this condition, then increment or decrement, then what will be the inner logic or inner statements. So these are the kind of pseudocode, I should say, that you can write in a paper pen. Nobody will be judging you based on those. Okay, you can ask your interviewer to give me, sir, 5 minutes. I'll be just writing and going to the problem. I'll be writing a pseudocode first. Once I finalize my approach, I'll be start writing my perfect code. Okay, the final code. In case you see that, okay, if I'm using for loop, right, don't worry about the optimization of time complexity and space complexity. Don't go that, because since we are like, I should say, you are learning now how to solve a problem. So first thing which you have to keep in your mind is solve a problem. You have to get the answer. Don't worry about what happens, right? You guys must be aware of time complexity, space complexity, and other optimization techniques. So what do you think, right? Without like finalizing approach, you will start thinking, no, let me make use of this data structure, this algorithm. Time complexity will be more. Nobody is judging you based on that. First, you have to solve a problem, guys. If you start thinking on that and just focusing on, no, if I'm using for loop, n is square, right? No, I'll be thinking some other approach. Maybe in 30 minutes you couldn't think of any other approach. Then you will be rejected, right? Better than that, if you could start with any approach you know, or first it is coming in your mind, try to write a pseudocode. If it is not working, just check with the dry run. Dry run means, okay, suppose take an input of 0 to 5. 5 times you see I equal to 0, I equal to 1, I equal to 2, like something like that. Check the condition, second statement. Check the increment, decrement statement, less than 5, like that. If you see, no, I'm not getting a correct output, right? Then you have to think different approach in the meanwhile. So for now, 5 minutes you have covered and like taken for already this understanding a problem, input, output, finalizing approach, right? If your approach goes wrong, then another 2-3 minutes you can quickly jump back to different approach. No, switch case will work fine. Something like that. I'm just giving example. Okay. So for now, 10 minutes, within the first 10 minutes, you should be getting a right approach. Don't worry about the complexities for now. If you see that, okay, this is my pseudocode, this is how I'll be dry running it, and I'm getting output. At least a few test cases, it would be fine, because you might be fixing, some cases later on just to understand that. This is all about the first 10 minutes, and you should be getting 2 milestones done in your first 10 minutes. By practice, it will come. Don't worry. Don't be too harsh to you for now. I'll be beginning your questions, guys, but let me finish all these milestones. So 2 milestones, first 10 minutes, you are understood the problem. You are well behaved with well versed with the input output types, and you have got an approach, and you have written a pseudocode also. So based on that pseudocode, you have to start writing now a real code, your program. It should have all the proper syntax only. No syntax error like your interviewer might accept. Then you have to write, okay, so this is a quiet function name. Pick a proper name for functions. Pick camel casing as I suggested, right? Objects, camel casing instead of classes, and these will be preferring camel casing only. If it is a constructor function or class name, then probably Pascal case. Otherwise, I would go. You can do like everything with camel casing only. Okay, first is small, then the second part will be capital. So this is all like if you start writing, right? Okay, the third milestone, you will write at least a code, okay? Because since you already dry run this code and check that, okay, couple of test cases were passing. So now you should be comfortable, or you should be more confident that, okay, my code is absolutely correct. Even though if you, at the end, if you try to run and interviewer asks, okay, so this is running for these 2-3 test cases, what you took, but see, it is not working for my test case. Then you have to optimize that in order to, still we haven't thought of time complexity and space complexity, guys, okay? Not yet. You have crossed almost 15 to 18 minutes. Still, we haven't thought for the optimized problem. What we are trying to do is first 20 minutes out of 40 minutes, solve a problem. At least it has an option, right? Because I just want to secure my place. I have to clear this interview. I'm not here to show off my skills that, okay, no, I'll be solving just once and it will be like order of n or log n only. No. first 20 minutes, whatever milestone I have told you, up to milestone number 3, we have to write a proper solution. It should be working. It should be covering almost 50% of the test cases. Now on, your interviewer asks, no, it is not working for my test case. You go back to your already developed code, right? And then you try to tweak it. Okay, no, less than equal to, it has to be greater than equal to. Okay, no, it has to be equal to and greater than, not only greater than. I can start loop from 1 instead of 0. Okay, I can make a decrement while loop. It will be like, I guess it might cover all the situations what my interviewer is giving. By now, you must be like understood all the problem correctly. Okay, it has to be solved. If it is correct, it will be solving all the test cases, right? Given test cases by your interviewer, he won't be giving you like 10-digit number to solve that for now. Just saying. Next, if time permits, and suppose if you could have done all this in 25 to 30 minutes, next 10 minutes, what happens? You can talk to your interviewer and see, sir, give me a couple of more minutes. Let me think of more optimized way. That is the place. No, sorry. But before that, you have to give the time complexity and space complexity of your program, whatever it is. Even though it is polynomial time or n square, space complexity is like 2-3 arrays you are taking, 2-3 extra variables you're taking. No worries. You have to calculate that. You know how to calculate that. You might be learning a DSA course. Then you have to give that. Then if it will ask, no, n square is quite large, right? Don't you think to reduce it? Then you should be thinking of some optimized. Okay, so let me try to use hash tables because it has a order of 1 lookup. Let me try that. If I can get that quickly, okay, more like less than time of worst case time less than of n square. So this is how your 4 milestone, I should say, and then just give your optimized solution with, I should say, that milestone 5. So all this is if you follow, right? If you are still following this, no worry, you need not to change your approach. You are absolutely right. You're in the absolutely right direction. Apart, if you are still like learning or trying to see that, okay, someone can help me in solving, like in problem solving approaches. So this is how, whatever I have discussed, you right. Just make sure you note them down, all the milestones, and you try to solve all the problems from now using all this. Okay. Okay, now second slide. Okay, so we shall try to, let me just give you a quick example of debugging only. Some questions I got is time permits, would love to hear why rather than what's or how. Gaurav, I didn't understand your question. Read the question, understand the problem. Yeah, okay. Yesterday I gave test of question. It was assisting the total 4 questions of the question during session. Please, sir, teach how to solve this problem. Don't worry, Ajay. We'll see that whatever issues you're facing, right? We'll try to help you. No doubt. Now, let me just give you one example before we'll be jumping back to our first activity of the day. Little bit about debugging a code, okay? So let me just quickly, you guys, if you want, let me just ping that in the chat box. You guys can also, meanwhile, test or check this. So yeah, here we have one debug JavaScript code from Google side only. It's a Chrome based. So if I just open this demo, yeah. This nothing, just will be going to follow. Yeah. I won't take much time, guys. I'll be just explaining you how to make a debug point, how to debug and all, okay? This was not part of the session, but I just added it so that you guys could have understanding how to debug. Okay, so most of the time we use VS Code, like our IDE debugger only inbuilt. But yeah, for all the web solutions, app solution, you can go ahead with Chrome debugger also. Even like I prefer, like it depends. Like most of the time, if I'm comfortable with Chrome debugger only. But in case your team suggests that, then definitely almost all the debuggers and all working like similarly only. So see, here is we have a demo. We have 2 numbers, number 1, number 2 as an input, and then if we click that, okay, it will be appending a string. Okay, this is how the code looks like. If you go to source, this is get-started.js. This is how we can see all the web applications code, right? Any website, if you open Facebook or Google, whatever, if you go to source, you can see that what are the JavaScript and the compiled code and all static images we have. This how in the source console, like we are using consoles, elements will be getting you the real HTML. See this. What we have in the body, right? Label, input 1, label 2, label input 1, then the button. That's how. See, network will be used to the network calls, API hits, and all this you can explore. For now, what happens if I give here input 5 and 5. It's not adding actually, it's just appending. Okay, a string concatenations it is. Now yeah, if I just click it, see 5 plus 5 55. Now what it is doing, first one is, where is the first one? Yeah, see, function one is get numbers input dot 0. So whatever we have here in the HTML, right, this input element num1 for num1 num2, yeah, input 0 actually it is. So how they are taking it, this is they have written the two simple functions, they are getting it, and where they are calling it, in the update level they will be calling, see, get number one function, it will be returning one output, like whatever you are inputting in the first one and second one, this is how append one, add in one, add in two, you will get it. Now you're making the sum like plus, that's why it is just appending it. I guess it's a string, that's why. And then you are just adding it and plus sum. Okay, and this is how label.text content is coming. Okay, and we are here, we are showing the text content. If we have that empty, like suppose we are not getting anything, you are not giving one number, see here, and you are calling in that, it will give error, one or the both inputs are empty. So this is how they have written the error handling also. Inputs are empty, other functions, if you see one of these are empty, then true. If it is true, just show this error. Okay, so this is how these two are the for error handling and responding. This is how your main function, which will be taking inputs and showing input. These are the two modular functions individually taking inputs. Now see here, this is how we pick query selector, right? Input I had shown you, right? Input we have document.query selector all. So wherever we have inputs, this will have an array. Where, yeah, see here, input we have here, input element, HTML element. So two inputs we have. So query selector all will be having, like, fetching both the inputs, and it will be keeping them as an array. So input.0 or input 0, input 1 will be getting to both the one. That's why, see here, we are getting this where yeah, return input 0 and input 1. That's how we are getting query selector button. So button, if you just click button, on click add event listener, you will be clicking. So on click, what will happen? This running. It will check that, okay, if it's an empty array, just return this array, otherwise update the level. What is update level we have? Update level is going to call those two quick functions, append it, and will be showing your output here. Now, if I am somewhere getting wrong, how to debug that? That's what our motive, right? I'm not showing you this sample code for you. Okay, so here if you go, to get familiar with the source code, 1, 2, 3, you can just go through this link. It's quite good. Okay. Yeah. Okay, here we have set a line of code of breakpoints. What do we have, guys, here? If I just want to check that, okay, whatever input I'm getting here is going correct or not. So instead of that, let me just quickly write this code wrong. Suppose now this is the code you have written, right? And you are saying that, okay, if I'm writing 5 and 6, what should I should get 56, right? And 1 second. Should update, man. I don't know why it is not updating. Okay, so, oh, sorry, I have to save it. no, reload page, I have to save it, right? I haven't saved it. Yeah, see, even if I am writing 54 or 56, it is giving me 55 only. See, this is the reason. So this I know in this case, but suppose if you have written something and you are not knowing it, okay, how should you do that? You have to make a debug point. So these all are the functions here you can explore. Okay, deactivate points. Here you will get all the points. This is, remember, call stack and scope I told you. So all these things we have everything in the Chrome. You can understand. Let me just try to make a debug point here. See, if I just click a point here in the line number, we get started line number 35, and the statement is return input 0. Next time also let me keep it here. This function call. Okay. Now let me just give any values. 62. Try to click on it. See what happens. The way we are doing it, like if you click on this button, it will pause your execution till the time you get these things. Okay, so now if you hover on it, you will get, see, the value is 6 in the first one. Input, if you click, entire input object you will get. See, this is the node list which is written by our query selector all. So first one is this one, num1, input num2 is then tags, definitely will be learning it. Everything you might get here. Length 2, okay, length is 2. If you open any one of them, Where will be that value? Value should be somewhere. It's a bigger object. Yes, I saw somewhere the value will be there definitely. Okay, no, not now. It will be coming, I guess, after this execution. Okay, one second. Now, okay, we'll come back to that. If I just see, okay, so now my execution is paused, right? What I have to do is I have just checked this current value. See, it's a 6, right? Which I have kept there. Okay, input.0 values. So I'm correct. Next time, if I just click this one and these two things, okay, we have this will be like executing all the ones. And if you check this side, see, resume script execution over next function call, next step, before step out of the current execution. See all this. If you just want to deactivate, all the points will be deactivated. Okay. Now, if you just click on the next one, next function call, see where it will go. Now you'll see the second number line also we have in the breakpoints. Currently we are okay. Now if you go here, you will see value 6. So now you will see that, okay, no, why? Because second value I have given as a 2, right? Now it's still 6. That means I have given some mistake in this one. Here you can go ahead and update it. Getting my point? Now in the scope side, if you see local scope return value 6, because in the get number tool, this is the block scope, right? Local scope I told you. Here the return value is 6. This will be window now here. And now global also if you check. So this is how the scopes are shown you, right? Global, local, temporary, dead zone, and see this is the call stack. First will be on click will be called, because since I click this button, it's on click call. On click call means line number 43 is the first line, and after that it will be go to on click. On click will be calling a line number 19 update level. Update level will come to line number 28, and see this is how it is going. First will be on click, then it will be inputs are empty one, because this error it has to check, right? Third thing will be update level. Update level means get number 1 first. Getting my point? This is the call stack, right? This is how the JavaScript works. It's pretty good example to understand. Now, if I just go on next, see, it will be giving me values, and after once we have successful execution, I'll be giving my value back. See, 66 it is. Now let me update it, save it, deactivate this from here, or just you can simply click double times here. Then now you just run it, you'll get the correct output. Sorry, why? Yeah, this was a file. Okay, now once you click, everything will go. See, 62 is the answer. I hope you got like a bit of understanding that how to debug our code using Chrome debugger, how to keep these breakpoints, how to go next, how the functions call, the call stack, the scopes will be working, right? We won't be like going in much depth. This is just a simple example which everyone can understand, and I hope you understand, right? Understood. Let me know in the code chat box, guys, if you understood this, how to debug code using this debugger, Chrome debugger. Okay, yeah, fantastic, guys. Let me quickly just close it and jump back to our session activity number 1 for the day. This is called a chunky monkey problem. So how many of you have solved this question? I think this has been given as a last chunky monkey. See, session 5 as a take home exercise, it has been given. Tried, solved, done. Yeah. So these are the honest reviews I was looking for. You tried, even though if you haven't completed it or you are not able to solve it, no worries. That's why I'm like taking it in the session itself. Yep, this is what we have questions. So we'll be trying to learn it. I won't give you time to solve this because you already had time to read the questions, understand how to write the solution. Okay, so now I'll be just solving it in front of you and just following all the approaches what we have discovered, right, or learned just now. So basically, most of you guys might got an answer if you tried searching on internet that it is used to solve using a regular expression. Since we are not covering a regular expression in JS Sprint 1, you need not to worry about that. Without regular expression, you'll be trying to solve this, okay? So the question says, write a function that splits an array first argument. That means now, okay, my brain started interpreting it, okay, scanning from left to right. A function which I have to split an array. I know how to split an array, right? Or no, right? Because string dot split I used to do to get an array. Okay, this is two different things. I'm not splitting an array, I'm splitting a string usually. First argument, okay, so I have been giving given a first argument in the functions, okay, into groups of length of size, second argument, okay, so I have been getting another argument which will be deciding the size of my second my means resultant array, and returns them as a two-dimensional arrays. Okay, so return type is two-dimensional array. What I'm getting is two inputs. First argument is given array which I have to divide. Second output is the size of which I have to divide. Getting the point? So this is how to read the questions twice, thrice, understand, reading from left to right, scanning it, and storing the important information in our mind for solving, like for that particular time. So what I have to store in my mind? Split an array. First thing, input arguments, two things, first argument, second argument. Third thing, return type is two-dimensional arrays. Exactly. While loop, okay, we have to think this and all. So first milestone is done. I understood the question. Okay, second milestone is, let me see the code and the input. What we have is function check array in groups, chunk array. Okay, I have to chunk that given array in the groups of size given, arrays given. Return I have to array that will be in two dimensions. Okay, no worries. Chunk array in groups. This is how my real time array looks like. Suppose if I have to do. So what will be the answer, guys? Here, if you could understand, A, B, C, D, right? And left hand side, if I come chunk array in groups, so what I'll get 0, 1, 2, 3, and all in the three sides. So 0, 1, 2. And 3, 4, 5. So it looks like they are simple, like from the left and right, if you just go start with any loop, pick first how many elements equal to size, and just go ahead in that sense. But we have a constraint here also. In case, just have a look at the problem, this number which is highlighting. So our array size is 7, and the size is given as a 3. So first we'll be starting with the loop. Okay, 0, 1, 2 plus 3, 4, 5 plus. We don't have those two next element, right? So we cannot fix that first 3 elements, so next 3 elements we can pick, right? Now we have to think about this also. So what questions requirement is, okay, if you have, if you can divide that array size into the size, right? Suppose 7 by 3, 2 plus 1 is the modulus, right? So 2 definitely you can give return with 3 sizes, but 1 not, right? So whatever remaining, if it is less than equal to the size, then 3, just return that. Or add that as a third row, right? So as I told you, right, while working with the 2D or multiple dimensional arrays, what we used to do is like basically 2 for loops, and inside the first for loop will be keeping one array that will be row, right? All the rows, and those rows will be at the end will be putting back to our final array. That's how we'll be making a 2D dimensional arrays. So what I thought is, let's try to solve this. Let me write a for loop for now. Okay, since I can see that I told you, right, from left to right we can just start with the for loop, and we can push the set of values to my to my array. Okay, so let me just first define my array. Const chunk array. Okay. This is how I explained you, right? And at the end I'll be returning this. Yeah, I've just changed it in order to have more clear understanding, because this array is an argument given. Even though the same thing you can use, because they are passed as a value, right? Yeah. Okay. Now. Simple for loop. Okay, everybody knows, right? Let me just quickly solve this, because this is quite a simple question, seems like, and everybody now understand all these constructs. I equal to 0, I less than equal to array dot size. What is the array of size, guys? In the line number 10 array, if you get, let me know. Length is equal to size. Yeah, 4 here in this one. Okay, absolutely right. Okay, let me just write a simple for loop now. Now what I'll do, in the chunked array, I'll be pushing this. What I'll be pushing this? Chunked array dot push. What I'll be pushing it? Okay, now we have I equal to 0. Yeah, syntax error. Yeah. So what I'll be pushing it, suppose in this case, if I have been given size 2 and this is my array, okay, I have written a for loop which will be running from 0 to size of 4. Now, oh no, size is not a method, right? Exactly. Asim, you caught me. Length, yeah, right. If I do this kind of errors, you should be pointing out, right? And because since once you start, talk and code, you will be doing such mistakes. So size is given for only maps and sets. For others, thing we have length only. Okay. Chunked array push. What we need to push here? We need to push a size of like a part of this array which is of size equal to given size. So do you remember any such method through which we can take a part of array outside? Otherwise, slice, exactly. What we'll do, we'll just slice it, okay? Let me slice it. You know, because this all the programming constructs and build methods you're already aware of. I'm slicing it. Slicing it from where? First one, 2 equal to size, right? Suppose for the first case it is I equal to 0, then I plus size will be 0 to 0 to 2 it will be, right? Exactly. For the first iterations I'm talking about. Okay, 0 and 0 plus 2 equal to, okay, let me write in this direction only. So 0 to 2 equal it will be at that. Okay, so I'll get A and B from this array slice, and that I'll be pushing into my chunked array. So my chunked array after one iteration, how it will look like? It will be looking like array, bigger array inside that one row only, which contains A and B. Okay. Now it will be I plus plus. So next I will be like I equal to 1. So what it will be? 1 plus 2 equal to 3. So that means 1 to 3. So now it will be like V to D. So do you think guys like this is the output which we require? If we just follow a simple for loop, right? Plus and all. No, right? This is not giving a right output. So where I am going wrong? If I try, like what I am incrementing is just like plus 1, right? Which is the classical one and which we learn. But no, we have to change it, right? What I can do here is I equal to I plus size now itself. Because suppose once I got these two elements, I don't care about this B element no more, like anymore now, right? What I care is after two elements, what are the next elements? So instead of just crossing one by one, okay, instead of that, let me take a big example. Yeah, suppose we have this also here. And two size, right? If I take this two, next two, right? I don't care about one. If we have size 3, then 0 to 2, then no need to worry about 1 and 2. It's gone. Next is 3 onwards. So what I'll be jumping out. So after iteration, instead of here, what I'll be having, not 1, not I equal to 1, I equal to I plus size. So 0 plus size is 2. So now onwards it starts from the index number 2. And now 2 plus 2 equal to 4. So that's what we are looking at, right? 0, 1, 2 and 3. So 2 to 4 means whatever we have here. Getting my point now? Okay, let me try to quickly run it. Let's see we are getting all the outputs or not. Oops. Seems like it's a good, simple answers only. Bring that range. This is how you have to go next. No, come back. Even though it is gone, you can. I hope you got that right. Or should I write it once again? Got it? Yeah. Okay. Before going to next, I should be copying it and pasting it in my. Okay. Please, can someone share that to me here in the chat box so that I can quickly copy instead of writing once again. chunkymonkey.js. Please, someone can share the exact problem, the exact solution, so that I can copy in the activity number 2. Activity 2. We'll see that what activity we have here. Okay, sum of all the primes we have. Activity 2. Nobody is willing to share, or they haven't written at all. Okay, let me write it again once again if you don't have that. Yeah, okay, I got from someone. Okay, yeah, so this is how it will be. The question looks like just for you guys. Okay, I'm writing it here. Chunky monkey. So like next time if you want, here it will be. Let me just write it quickly because you guys have understood already. Need not to discuss it once again. If not, like ask me guys quickly. Yeah. So what we have is basically one const chunky array equal to, this is my outer loop, outer like bigger I should say array. Now let I equal to 0, array dot length I is equal to, yeah, this is the short form of that, I plus size. Here also I plus size, new array is chunky array, and this is how I'll be console log it test. Okay, still I see, okay, it's log. Let me quickly go back to shell. Okay, already clear. Node session number 6 and then activity number 1. Yeah, A, B, and C, D I get, right? Okay, if you just want to check the another one, yeah, it means you might get that anytime you want. Okay, for now, let me just copy simple one, another one. Okay, this is our input looks like here. Okay, guys. Yeah, so now let's quickly jump back to the next slide of the day. And after this, probably we'll take a quick break. Quite important topic to discuss, and almost all the interviews start from this basic questions, which is primality test. Okay, how many of you know that what is a prime number? Yeah, let me know in the chat box, guys. What do you understand by prime number? What exactly are prime number? The number which divides on its own and 1. Okay. Others number which is only divisible by itself and 1, only can divide by 1. And okay, you guys are absolutely right. No more than 2 factors. Yeah, another definition, quite correct. Divisible by itself and 1. Okay. Yeah, absolutely right, guys. Now what we have to write here is program to check that the number given is a prime number or not, and again we'll be learning how to print all the prime numbers between given range or between the maximum range. Okay, so 3 kinds of problems we'll be solving it. These 3 are the variants of the same problem and quite popular among the interviews. Okay, for the first round, definitely they might ask you to write this code. So this is the time to get comfortable with the problem. So what exactly is? Let me quickly let me just close it, go back to my slides and explain it. So guys, what is primality test is, suppose you have, so it's actually an algorithm to check that the number which is given is a prime number or not. So this is what are called primality test. So you have to check the primality of that number. Okay. So there are primality or compositeness tests in number theory, but we'll be looking at a more fundamental approach to it. Yeah. So we are not going to deep much in like maths and all. It's just that if you understand prime number, we have to write a program for that. That's it. No need to write a theory of 2 pages or 3 pages to understand what exactly all the mathematics is. Prime number is basically a whole number which is greater than 1 and exactly has 2 divisors. What all 2 divisors? 1 and that itself. Like 7 we have, right? 5 we have. So do you think like from 1 to 7, do we like have any other number which can divide 7 other than 1 and 7? No, then it's a prime number. That's how you can see. 11, from 0 or 1 to 11, do we have other number that can divide? 11 by 1 will be 11. 11 by 11 will be 1. No. So this is a prime number. How to find that out? This is the actual problem. So it depends like how we are. Okay, yeah, some all the problems also we have. Like let's try to solve this also then. Okay, sum of primes. So we have got, I guess, fourth variant also. Let's see like all variants I could solve. Okay, so first variant is check, means function name will be is prime. Second variant will be, if I couldn't solve all right guys, I will be giving this as a homework, okay, but I'll definitely give one only. Check is prime. Second, print all the primes. Till where? Till a bigger value. Suppose 11 I have given, right? Till max number. So I will ask, okay, up to 11, how many numbers I'll get that? Number. Third approach, I'm giving you a range. Print all the prime numbers between min range I'm giving, okay, min number to max number. Now other variant you can, what this is asking you, giving you as a homework here is like sum. Print the, get the sum of all the prime numbers. So prime numbers, what they have did is a range or what? No, max number, right? This is what. So based on these two, we could have another two approaches also. Till max number. See, 5 questions I have prepared for you guys now. Okay, let's see how many of them we could solve. Okay, so moving back, so now you got right what exactly is. So without wasting any time, is prime. Number is given to you. Console log will be having. Okay, and this is how is prime is my function name. This is how we'll be calling a function. What I'm giving is like 4. Next time I'll be giving 11. Next time I'll be giving suppose 36. Let's see what it has to cover. Instead of 4, let's give 6. Here I'll be taking as a number. Okay, and I have to check this number is prime or not, right? Based on that. So what are your approaches, guys, before going back into that? Modulo division, if remainder is 0, the number is divisible. Okay, yeah, correct one. By using that, we can find the sum of prime numbers. No, first we are not focusing on sum, right? What we are focusing on is prime function. Will we quickly move ahead in like solving other variants? But first variant is just is prime. This is extra to what like I am starting with. Okay. Anyways, for us, like activity number 2 is given for some prime only, which is might take 10 minutes, but I'm taking 20 minutes so that you understand all the variants of that. Quickly, we won't be wasting much time. If I ask questions, guys, I would request you to quickly respond so that we can go ahead. Yeah. So how my brain scanned this? Okay, so how I have understood the prime number is like, okay, suppose 7 is a prime number. Why? Because I will be starting from 0 or 1. I'll be reaching, okay, 1, 2. I'll be keep on finding. So do we have any factor through which I can divide 7? Okay, I'll be saying 0, 1, 2, 0, no, 1, yes. So 1, 2, no, 3, no, 4, no, 5, no, 6, yes, 7, yes. So what I find quickly, two factors I could find. So yeah, this is a prime number. This is the definition I want. But you just look at the way I am processing. Do you see the use case of for loop here? Do you see for loop? One by one, exactly. So we'll be starting with for loop. This is how my approach should come. Let me write a for loop. Nothing not a big deal, right? I have written 100 of times. I'll be writing 101 also. Simple for loop. I equal to 0. I less than equal to this thing. Something like that. Okay, I'll be keep on improvising. It's not that first time only I have to write it perfect. I'll be tweaking it. Less than equal to, greater than equal to. Like in the last question, what we did, not I plus plus 1 was not working fine, right? So what we did, I equal to I plus size. Something like that. We'll be keep on updating. But this is how our approach should be, so that we can get that patterns, or I should say approaches. How those approaches will be coming to our mind. I've written a simple for loops. Okay, so then you'll set that okay from 0 we'll be checking on 1 by 1 that okay if it is divisible by something like that, right? Okay, then I'll be checking that if condition, if it is divisible by or not, if it is divisible by or not, something like that. So how will I check that? Suppose number is, we have given 6, number is 6, divide by what? 0, 1, 2, something like that we did, right? Okay, let's take, so here not we are dividing it, because dividing will give the answers. What we just want is, what is the output? Suppose if you use remainder, right? Remainder of I. So 6, remainder 0 will be, it will be, so remainder of any number, if it is 0, that means it is divisible, right? 6 remainder 3, 0. 6 divided by 3, getting my point, right? So there are two things. I think I have explained you, right? This last session only. 6 equal to 3, 2. But 6 modulus 3 equal to 0. Exactly, yeah, this is the difference you need to understand. Quite simple, but yeah, you have to understand that. Instead of here, if you use that, right, then go ahead, that Chrome debugger I told you, right? And that's how you will see, no, output is not coming. Where I am going wrong, through that debugger point set, you can see that, okay, no, this is the wrong operator I'm using here. Okay, now number is 6, I equal to 0. 6 by 6 divisible as 0. How much it is? If I just go and just check all this thing what we are saying, right? 6 divided by 2, okay. 6 modulus by 2, okay. 6 by 0, infinity. See. So for now, if it is 0 or not, that is my concern. I don't know what it has to be. It is 0 or not. If it is 0, then it will be going inside block. If it is not, I'm not right. I'm not bothering also. Why should I bother? I don't want. If it is 0, then I will be taking it further into consideration, into my consideration. Okay. No worries. Let's move back to 1. 1 divided 6 by 1. Like 6 by model, if you see, right, it will be 5, right? It is not 0. Let it be. So one pattern, what we see here is, so which one is the first prime number, guys? First prime number is 2. Okay. What one tweak we can make it here is, since we know that 0 and 1, like, you know, right, anything you divide by 0 will be infinity, anything you divide by 1 will be same number. So what we can do, if we get just, suppose the number is the question, let me write it here. We can get 0, right? We can get 1, right? Let me write another if condition before this check only. If my number is 0 or my number is 1, what I'll do, I'll just return the, so what will be like, if I say, guys, 0 is prime number or not? Remember I told you whole number it is. Whole number means starting from 1, so it is not. What about 1? No, because 1 has just one factor. So both are not. So here, if I have to return this, I'll return this. Since it is prime, right? Is prime is kind of a Boolean functions we naming conventions for Boolean return data type functions is like is prime, is check, and something. This is the way we give the names. At the end here, I'll be returning whatever we have here, something like that. So okay, now we have got this first two things. If you give 0 or 1, it will be false, means not a prime number. Okay. Now onwards, what I'll do, instead of checking from 0, right? What I'll do, I'll be checking it from 2. The reason is 2 is the first prime number, and now onwards, how many factors I'll be getting? So from 1 to 7, suppose 1 to 6, we have to check that do we have 2 factors, then only it's a prime number. Forget about 1. Because for all the number there has to be one factor which is called a 1, number 1, right? Any number will be having one factor, right? Which is 1. So need not to take worry about that. Let's just start from 2 and then see that okay, from 2 to that number do we have any number or not? If we have just just one number, which will be that own number, then that means, okay, one factor I know, other factor I got it. That means it's a prime number. If I get more than 2, means more than that itself from 2 to that range, then it is not a prime number. Got it? This is how we are tweaking it. Okay, now, if it is divisible by any of the number between 2 to 6, suppose 6 is divisible by 3, yes. So let me return straightforward false here. It's not a prime number. Because already I know that, okay, 1 it is divisible by, now I am waiting for this to be divisible by the number which is here is to be less than equal to, I guess, yeah. But it is already divisible by anything in between also. In that sense, what I'll do, I'll straightforward return that, no, it's not a prime number. Okay. Now let me just try to okay, the way I told you, result equal to, let's start with the true. Okay, suppose everything is true. If I get 0 and 1, then I make result as false. Okay, or okay, for now here let it be. Here let me make result equal to false, and at the end just result return results. Okay, seems good. Node session number 5 of 6, sorry, activity number 2. False. So don't we have any number, prime number here or what? Yeah, we have, right? 11. It should be true here, but it is false. Okay, let's check that. I guess yes, it has to be this one, because if you check that 1 to 7, right, definitely I got 1, right? But before 7, I have to check, do we have anyone? No. Exactly, you guys got me right. Now let me try this. See, you got it true? Let me write 7 also. Okay, so now if you have understood how to tweak, how to write, like read the questions, read the approach, write at least the first set of code, check a couple of inputs are working fine, then if you see no, a few test cases are not working fine, just tweak it like starting from I equal to 2, greater than equal to not, increment I equal to I plus plus or I equal to I plus I, something like that. This is what I just wanted you to understand, guys. Okay, now time is for a quick break, so we can take a break. What about you guys? Do you feel like taking a break? Anyways, let me give at least for 2 or 3 minutes. It's 12:09, guys. Let me give you a break for 3 minutes, not more than that, okay? Because it's Saturday morning, right? Entire weekend you have to enjoy whatever you want, like binge watch on Netflix, Prime, go out. I think if your locality permits, then only. Otherwise, it is good to be safe and binge watch, or just revise whatever concepts we have studied so far in the entire 2 weeks. It depends on you. Let's take a quick break. 12:10 it is, 12:13 we'll be meeting, okay, and we'll be discussing sum of all the prime numbers and print of all the prime numbers, okay. So for meanwhile, let me just quickly write this function names, okay, return type values and okay, guys, bye-bye. We'll meet after 3 minutes. Take your break. Don't like I'm not doing anything special. I'll be explaining everything at the end, okay. Bye-bye. Okay, guys, welcome back after the quick break. Now, what I was explaining to you is where I went. Yeah. So yeah. So now, somebody has hinted me one thing, and which I was missing. Now, let me. Okay. So milestone, like first milestone I covered, understanding, scanning, reading. Second milestone, like pseudocode, test cases, dry run. Third is return a code, tweaking a code, right? Fourth one is like optimization, like fifth one. So fourth one is the tweaking one. Fifth milestone is something like optimization, right? So for this program, if you guys suggest one what way, so what will be the time complexity of this? If I say it's going to take a time complexity of big O of like the worst case. Now, okay. Now what I can do is, yeah, this number is like n, right, for now, so it will be order of now. Now one way to increase the decrease the time complexity from order of now is something that, remember I told you, right, from starting from 0 to that particular number we have to run, and we have to just check that can we we need to check that do we have something like which is divisible by that number, like which can divide that number, right? This was is the requirement for finding a prime number. So what we did, we start from 2, and before that exact number, like less than equal to number, right, not equal to, we just check that do we have anything which could be as a factor, which could be, we can consider them as a factor. If yes, then we are straightforwardly written that no, it's not a prime number, because since it is able to divide, we have some number between 2 to that number which is able to divide. Now think in a matter in this direction. Suppose we have here 9. Okay, so what will be the factor of 9, guys? 1. Starting from 1. Okay, then do we have any other number? Exactly, 1, 3, 9, right? So definitely it's not a prime number, right? Because we have all these things. 1 we are not considering, forget about 1. 9 we are not considering, forget about that. So we have this 3. So now what do you guys think if we got this 3 as a divider in how many times? So if I start my loop from 2, when I'll encounter 3, the second iterations, right? Okay, so if I just encountered my first factor after second iterations only, then why I am running till the number only? Suppose number is 9, right? So this will be 2 to 9. Getting my point? What I'm trying to explain here? 2 to 9 means 9 times. So how many iterations it will be? 7 times this for loop will run, right? Even though I got that this after this only. After the second iterations I got, right? Yeah, somebody suggesting break the loop and visual form. Exactly. If I do like that, then also it will be so you can instead of going to iterating to all the things, you can just come out of that for loop, and it will also give you the same example. So that means you need not to go ahead if you just found one, right? Yeah, let me try to run this and check this. See, 9 and 7 both are still they are giving correct answer, right? This is also true and this is also true. Now another thing, this is quite good. Like we now we have like reduced the time complexity. Another thought, if you just give that, okay, so do we have any number which is divisible by this? That means if I just take a square root of this number, square root of number means 9. Let me go here and take a math dot. Square root of 9. How much it will be? 3, exactly. So what we'll be doing is, if we just, instead of going ahead till that number, right, let me just check till the square root only. So instead of 9, after 3, let me just, like, now I know that, okay, if 3 is divisible, right, 3 definitely divided. So that means it's a not a prime number. Then why should I go ahead? What I'll do, instead of just going to this for loop, running this for loop n time only, what I'll be running it till math.sqrt only. So now my loop will be running from 2 to 3 only, and here it has to be equal to. Okay, instead of equal to means like, so first iteration 2, second iteration 3. Then 3 only, 3 will be divisible, like 3 will divide definitely 9, right? And in that case it will come inside this bin, and it will, the result will be false and will come out. Let's quickly check that it is also giving the same. Exactly. See, and in that case, what will be the time complexity of this one? Root of num. It was earlier like order of n, right? Now it will be order of square root of number. Getting my point? So what happens? There were two things. You might be asking, sir, no, since we are already using break, right? Why we are doing this? So the reason is that, suppose this is the questions you are saying 9, right? Sometimes like we have 11, then it has to go till 11 always, right? But now, no. What we have to check that, okay, if do we have a square root of 11, that number could divide it, then why we are going ahead? Getting my point? So if in some scenarios square root of 11 exists, that means and that could, like, definitely that number will be able to divide that. So let's just go to 2 to that square root of number. Between that, if do we have someone which can divide, then it is not a prime number. If it is, it's a prime number. Then you need not to go to till number, right? Square root of number is also fine. So 2 to square root of number. Time complexity is square root of number. Getting my point? Okay, I hope you understood it. Let me know in the chat box, guys, if you understood it. And let me quickly go back for other 2 variants, and other 2 variants I'll be giving you as a homework now. Understood? Got it? Yes, everything is fine. Fantastic. So now you have been given 2 ranges of number, right? And you have to find it out, okay, how many prime numbers exist between those 2. Now, since you have one function that is prime, right, which will be giving you, okay, particular number is prime or not. So what I can do is, like, okay, from number 1 to number 2, I'll be just quickly running a for loop. Quickly copy it. In order to save time, I'll recommend you to always write for loops till like 100 to 100 times, so that till the time you are not getting comfortable. So I equal to num1. I mean, suppose I ask, okay, just let me know from 10 to 100 how many prime numbers are there. So how will you be able to find it out? So that's the way. So what you have to do? Here, no need to do anything like that. Okay, because is prime is still time complexity of math square root of number only, right? Here it is still same. What we are doing is another for loop. Robin, can you explain again square root 1 once again, please? So Robin, you remember, for first now we are going from 2 to 9, right? In order to check that do we have any divisor. But you know the fact that whatever the divisor you will get, which will be able to divide 9, do you think that it will be able to divide 3 also? Since they both are, 3 divide can 9. Okay, let me take an example of 27. In order to go till 27, square root of 9. So 9 can divide 27, right? So why you are going from 9 to 27? Why you are running that loop? Even though you know that if any number between 0 to 9 can divide 9, then definitely that number will divide 27 also, right? Get your point now? Suppose if I ask you to take prime is 27, what you will do? You will run from 2 to 27. What I'll do, I'll run from 2 to 9 only. Because 2 to 9, we have a number called 3 which can divide 9, which will definitely divide 27 also. Exactly. Coming back to this, let number 1 equal to 1, like less than number equal to 2, and just simply I plus plus will be doing. And what will be doing if any number which is coming here is prime, which is its prime function, we have written above. I is my all the numbers between this number range, 11, like 10 to 100, so 1, 11, 12, 13 to 99, up to 100 only. If this number is prime, print it. How you can print it? Like let me just create a const array of primes. This is how I'll be keep on pushing on this. This is what we have learned, right? If it is divisible by that, yeah, just push that I here. Nothing much, right? And once you finish this for loop, return that See how simple it looks like now once you have solved it is prime function, and that is how you can divide your function into multiple model functions which which follow that concept, do not repeat, dry. Now let me just try to run this 3-4 times. The ranges I will be copying here. Now another variant is homework, right? Two things I'll be giving homework. What is the homework for you? Print all prime numbers till a number only. Suppose I just give you number 2, then in that case you have to start from quickly in the chat box. Homework for you is exactly, so that is homework for you. Okay, then print all prime numbers. No two ranges will be given. The maximum number will be given to you. That all these 5 are the variants of your interview questions. Quite like any kind of variant you will get. This is the approach to solve. This is like where I was. Yeah, print all prime numbers quickly. I'm taking a lot of time. It seems like suppose 10 to 50 we have, 9 to 56 we have, 2 are enough to understand, right? Need not to go through much. For you, this console will be print all prime numbers and just 100. It's from 2 to 100 or 0 to 100 it has to cover. Means all the prime numbers it has to cover from that range. Now 11, 13, I think. Let me take it as a 20 so that you guys can understand. Okay. Yeah, now see, 20 to 15 we have these numbers only. If somebody asks you just a count of that number, so instead of this, what you can return? Okay, another variant I got. Dot length. Okay, let me write variant also. Get the number of all prime numbers between or a range. Okay, you might got it wrong. Like, okay, so 6 variants we have been given, right? If you return just array length, it will be written this length, right? 7. So 7 is the answer. Got it? Now the last question says sum of all primes. Okay, so now we have to see that, okay, what are the prime numbers, what is the length of that, and what is the sum of that. Again, not a big deal. This is what that FreeCodeCamp questions has demanded, and it has been given me. Okay, so first 20. Okay, and first 30. Whatever you want, 10. First of these, sum of the all prime numbers I just want. Okay, what I'll do, simple thing. What do you guys think now? If I just copy this entire thing here, entire thing from this one, I know that now instead of this I just want sum, right? Sum should be a number, as it will start from 0. Instead of that, what I will be returning is sum. Now what I'll be doing the same thing. I'll be starting from this one from 0. I equal to 0 and less than equal to num. Here I don't have range. Okay, another variant. From 0 to that number, I'll be running a for loop, and what I'll be checking is this a prime number? Yes. So then, what instead of pushing into that array, I'll be making sum equal to sum, which is already a sum. Whatever we suppose starting from 0, then I. What do you think, guys? Will it be giving me correct answer or not? Sum equal to sum plus I. Sum. Oh, oops. You have to make it let, right? Not const. See, 77 is the answer. Same if you want to check, let me do here. The third output will be 0 to 20. Let me check that what will be the sum of that. Okay, so that you can check, you can calculate. So third is, you see, 0 to 20 we have all these numbers, right? If you make a sum of all these numbers, how much you should get? Okay, you won't be able to make a sum of that, no worries. Now let me try this. Yeah, so 0 to 10 we have 2, 3, 5, 7, 4 are the prime numbers. What will be the sum of that? Now you can do, right? 17. So this is what we got it. Count sum all the prime numbers is prime numbers. All these 5, 6 variants we have. This is all called that probability test, guys, and almost like one of the most famous, popular ask interview questions. That said, with this, we are going to go ahead with activity number 3.js, and we have one more activities. 2 more activities will be solving, guys, today. Okay. So this session is just about problem solving approach, debugging, solving some important questions approach. So this you can, so that you can learn, right? The way I have taught you, the way I am, and the we are together solving your questions. If you are new, you can learn from this approach. Vishwajit, now how to think about optimization. So for this, you don't see any optimization. That what will be the time complexity of this one, guys? Sum of all primes or print of all primes? Let me know. Exactly. So since now you want all the prime numbers between this range to that range, then you don't have anything to optimize, right? Because you have to check all the prime numbers. Without going till that number, you won't be able to find out all, right? Getting my point? So for both will be like order of num. Basically, it will be like num2 minus num1. Suppose 20 minus 10, 10, but at the end it is order of num only. Okay, I hope you have a little understanding of all that. Quickly jump back to the activity number 3, which says find largest in an array. Okay, and guys, last activity will be having of difference between two values. Okay, another 2 important questions. I think that will be enough for the day. Make sure you fill the feedback form, guys, before leaving. I'm not asking you to leave right now. I'm just reminding you. I'm not even sharing that feedback form to you. But most of the time, I just see like half of the class, like 40 people max only are filling the feedback forms. I don't know. I don't understand why others are not interested. I see if you guys are on mute. Not sure who are of them. Please make sure you are on unmute. Or mute, sorry. Don't unmute yourself. Okay, guys, let me quickly jump back to largest of 4. Okay, some primes, if you just want, like you can quickly copy from here and just go to and submit it, okay? For now, I'm just pasting it. Okay, so other 2 activities what we have is some largest of 4, okay? Let me solve this one first. Or you want me to solve this one first, difference to array. And difference to array, I guess it was easy, right? Okay, anyways, let me go one by one. So activity number 3 is largest for 4. Yeah, find largest in array. Largest in arrays, and that will be difference in arrays. Okay, so guys, 2 quick questions, I guess. So these both are also part of homework exercises. Have you completed them? Chunky monkey, some all. Yes, sir. Okay. Which it is? Okay. Maybe okay. Let me still explain this to you so that you guys can check that like what was your approach while solving and what is my approach and what is like together we have approach so that we can learn from each other. Now what we have is largest of 4. Let me quickly copy it. Go back to my activity number 3. Okay, this is how the thing is. So the question says, guys, we have this is like multi-line comments, single to forward slash or a single line comments. Okay, return an array consisting of the largest number from each provided sub-arrays. That means we have been given a sub-arrays. Okay, I see 2-dimensional arrays we are given. We have been provided area, bigger array, sub-arrays, and then return an array. Okay, so my brain should keep that thing that I have to return one array. Even though I have been given multi-dimensional arrays or sub-arrays or nested array, I have to return just one array. Okay, cool. Consisting of the largest number from each provided sub-array. So that array should consist of what? The largest number from each. Suppose 4 sub-arrays have been given. I have to pick the largest value of all that and I have to make that into one array and that I have to return. This is what the question demands, right? So you can scan, understand, try to read it twice, thrice, 4 times also you can read. For simplicity, the provided array will contain exactly 4 sub-arrays. Okay, for this scenario, we have been given just 4 arrays only. So if you want just 4 times 4 loops, you can make, right? But that's what we are not going to do. We'll be just array.length only we'll be checking. Now, remember, you can iterate through an array with a simple for loop and access each number with array syntax array. Yeah, this is what the hint is given. I don't believe in this hint because we already aware of this. Let me just remove it. You all know, right? For loop and access of it. This is what your question is. If any other question, guys, if you feel it's difficult, let's discuss on the Slack channel. If still nobody's there to help, just make sure you tag me or one-on-one. You can ping me, okay? Yes. So what we have here? Okay. So how we'll be starting? We have been given a 2D array. Let me just make it as an my own array. So what I have to return is resultant array. Okay. This is what will be my output, and this is how I'll be returning it also. Okay. Now, what I have to do, I have to find a bigger number in sub arrays, and I have to push that particular number into my resultant array. Okay, that will be just 1D array, and that's how I have to. That's what I have to return it. Okay, simple thing for loop. So most of the questions can be solved using for loop and if else condition only, right? If you have got this as a pattern for now. I equal to 0. I is less than equal to array dot length. I plus plus. Okay. So this is how the first for loop will be going. So it will be like this bigger array. Okay. If you are not able to understand it, I can. Yeah, this is how if I write it, you will be able to visualize it. Most of the times in programming, guys, it is like how well you can visualize the data structures. This is how you have to see. So now the size of the bigger array, if I ask you, it will be the size of array.length. What it will give, guys? Array size of the rows, or like the length of the rows, or number of columns. What it will give? Array.length. Remember I told you? Hey, not 4. Definitely I can see what it will give. Will it be giving me column numbers or row numbers? Exactly, it will be number of rows. Okay, if I just want to get the number of columns, then Gaurav is still saying it's columns. Forget that array.length thing and array.0, or I suppose whatever we have dot length. Remember this thing? Yeah, exactly. Yeah, that's what. Few guys are still looks confused. I don't know why. You should be revising, guys. If you feel stuck somewhere or you're not able to understand, then you must go back to your recordings or activities, and you should be revising that in order to get a good hold of all those concepts. Okay, guys. So now let me. So this my first loop will be running how many times, guys? 4 times, because this is the length of my bigger array. See this 1 row, 2 row, 3 row, 4 rows. Okay. Yeah. Now, with that, if I just do now array of I, I'll be getting this entire row. Fine with you? If I do array.I for the first thing, array of 0 means this one, array of 1 will be this one. Okay. Means array of 1. While I'm accessing it is giving me another array only, since it's a nested array or 2D array. What I'll do, I'll pick a numbers, suppose, because I have to find out in this array of I, right? This is my array of I, first nested array. I have to find out what could be the maximum value of this. So how should I find it out that? I'll be just taking largest number. Okay, largest num equal to let's give 0 for now. I'll be tweaking a bit. Okay, now I'll be just running another for loop. What that for loop will say, that for loop will be iterating through this thing in this first row for 4, 5, and 3, and I'll let it will check and it will give me the largest number in this one. And at the end, in my resultant array, after that thing, I'll be just keep on pushing. Okay, something like that. This dot push, This one bigger value, whatever the largest value I'll get, I'll be pushing it. This is how I can make a array, right, of largest numbers. Getting my point? This is the basic. Somebody saying sort, pop, push. Yeah, this is the basic approach I'm just telling you. In order to get comfortable with for loop, if else, all right. Common, basic, plain solution. Now, okay, second for loop I have. How I'll be making use of this. Okay, suppose we have largest number. This. Now, second thing, how much this loop will be working? What I should write here, guys? Array of I. Exactly. Prathamesh, Srinivas, you both are absolutely right. So it's array of I. I think I have given one thing as a homework, like, so what's the difference between number dot max value and number dot safe integer, guys? I remember, right? I have given, you guys should be reminding me to ask those things if I give you some homework. Okay, who among us can unmute and explain us what is the difference between those two things which I asked? Max safe integers and max value. I think those are the two keywords. Come on, guys, quickly. Whoever has got time to explore that and they would like to share with the entire class, please go ahead and unmute yourself and explain to the class. Please. Array of this is around simply else. No one? Hey, you shouldn't be like this. You should be going right. So that means you're not following the homeworks given. I'm not sure how many of you are actually solving these problems also. If you are learning, guys, then this is the best point. You will regret after completion of this program or any program, right? That I could have solved this thing by that time only, because at that time, whatever doubts I had, I could have asked that time itself. All the approaches I could discuss, optimization, everything. Once this will be finished, nobody is going to teach you once again this very simple basics of programming. Nobody, definitely I'm saying.
Kapil, so max value returns the largest possible number in Java.
And max safe integer? What's your name? Kaushik. So this is, I explained to you, everyone last session. The homework which I have given is the difference between max safe integer and the max value. So that was the question, not this. Okay, guys, anyways, like if you're not interested, let it be. It is your loss only. It's not for me. Okay, coming back to this problem, what I was thinking is, okay, so for now we are inside our sub loop, this one, first row, suppose I equal to 0, then we'll be going through this much times this loop. So size of this thing, if it is 6 or 7, it will be running that many times only, okay? Now for now it will be running 4 times only because it's 2D array, I should say matrix of 4 by 4. What I have to do, this largest number if it's 0, right? I have to check that whatever number I am getting now, suppose 4. Is 4 is greater than equal to 0? Yes. So assign that number into largest number. This is how we usually check, right? You know math, max, math, min also you can use. Oh, okay, yeah. Sorry. It has to be J. Not this. This has to be I only. Right? Yeah. Now, okay, now we have taken largest number as 0, right? So 4 is greater than 0? Yes, so largest number is now 4. Okay, so now first time it was 0, then it is 4, then 5 is greater than 4? Yes, now 5. 1 is greater than 5? No. Okay, 3 is greater than 5? No. So for the end of the, like first time, what this will be giving us as a largest value as 5. This will be giving us largest value as 27, something like that. Resultant array dot push. Okay, now since once we come out of this entire inside loop, this one, I know that my last value is 5, so I'll be pushing that value to my resultant array. So my resultant array after first time, second iteration of our first iteration of bigger for loop will be array of 5 only. This time it will be 39. This time it will be 1. Yeah. So this is my resultant array will looks like. Let me quickly go back and session 6 and activity number 3. I have to keep that inside the console log since I am expecting it to return the last value resultant value on console log. See guys, 5, 27, 39, 101. That's what we thought, right? Is it fine with you? What if we put resultant array push inside if? Okay. Let me try it. Since you are insisting, I will we'll see the values. Okay. You have, I like your curiosity. You have to think something like why you're pushing outside, why after this for loop, why inside one for loop. This is the output we are getting. Can you explain me now, Asim, why this is output? If you could have understood the proper functionality. Why we are getting this output?
Sir, I'm trying to think, sir.
Trying to think.
The main concern that I asked this question was because I was confused at what if we push this thing one by one, like we got largest number and then we pushed it into array simultaneously.
So you have to understand this how we are going ahead. See, for the first for loop is just used for going through the nested arrays, like all the rows. Now for the first time in this for loop, you are inside first is 4, 5, 1, 3. Here what we are doing, just started with largest number 0 and we are checking. 4 is greater than 0, yes. So now largest number is 4. 5, we have got another number. 5 is greater than 4, yes. So our largest number is now 5. So after that 1 and 3 fails, right? This if condition, this 1 and 3, they won't get inside. See here, you couldn't find 1 and 3. What you could find is just 4 and 5. So for all the iterations, I'll be just resetting it 0, right? So once you are getting this, if you come inside, your largest number is 0 once again. So whatever values, first values which will be like in the increase and increase one, then all those values are you will be getting here. Getting my point?
Sir, what if there is negative numbers in the array, then the largest number is equal to 0 will fail?
Okay, yeah. In that case, for now we haven't given that scenario, but in that case, what we have to do instead of going with 0, we have to go with the numbers given in that array only. Okay, yeah, nice questions. So what we have here is, okay, give me a suggestion.
We can just access the array like array is equal to I and j. We can go like array is equal array bracket I and bracket 0 because we are surfing through the interior sub indexes of the array.
Okay, fantastic. So now if you go, what I'll be picking is this first one. So for the first for loop, it will be 4. Now you have to compare everything with 4. Now it will be 4. 5 is greater than 4, yes, not other values, right? So this is how now it will be. So it will be, I guess, taking care of minus value also. So now we don't have 0 or max value. What we have is just first value of this array. Fine with you now?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Fantastic. Thank you for asking that question. Okay, so guys, now next questions. Yeah, you can just copy that from there to here, and you will be able to understand. Yeah. So last question of the day we have is difference array. Okay. We can use number.min value. Yeah. That's the reason, Ranjan, we have discussed those things, right? Just try those numbers, max, min, safe integer, and just see the output. Just try to use number.min value and check the output. Okay, this is all about your explorations, however you like. Yeah, yes, Vishwajit, I can see your hands. You have raised your hand. If you have any doubt, just share with us.
Hello, sir.
Yeah.
So,
yeah, go ahead.
The previous question, can we do that? Like, can we sort row wise and access the last element and put that element in the array?
1 second. So what you are suggesting is what we have to do here. Suppose this is so you are saying
sort the array row wise while sorting and access the last element because that will give the
yeah, exactly. Yeah, it will do the same. So that's what we are doing basically with all these variables, with all this for loop. But if you just use like one time you will run the for loop, in the second time you will be just sorting out all this like in simple for loops, and at the end you can just finally access the last element of that sub arrays, right? Because it will be maximum. Yeah, correct approach, right approach. But sometimes what happens, right? Your interviewer will say that you are not allowed to use the inbuilt methods. Sort methods you are not allowed. That's why this is the plain example I've given. Everywhere it will be accepted. Sometimes this is also. Anyways, we are currently learning to find out the solution using inbuilt function, using anything which is existing. Okay, which exists. I just want to get and find solution. That's it. Now the constraint thing is different. That depends on your interviewer. That depends on the company you're targeting. They will have ample of constraints. In that case, you need to have this also. That's what I told you, right? First thing which you have to know about solution is plain basic solution without any inbuilt functions and without optimization. That's where you can start. So suppose if you have this basic, now you can go ahead with, instead of this another for loop, you can sort it. Okay, instead of this, you can whatever other optimizations. If he asks, you can do. If he says no need to use sort, then this is the answer, right? This is the reason we are going ahead from one to more optimized and more like functions ahead.
Alright, thank you.
Both the approaches you should know. If he is fine with you using any inbuilt functions, then definitely you should have been given that also as an answer. Last problem of the day, guys, we have. Yeah, thank you, Vishnu. Comparing two arrays and return a new array with any items. Okay, my brain is now scanning. Compare two arrays. Okay, that means we have been given two arrays as an input. Okay, and return a new array. Okay, I have to return a normal new array now. We are doing right. We have to const array equal to just empty array, and then we have to return that array. Okay, with any items only found in one of the two given arrays. Okay, so that means if I just found one element is 1, 2, 3, second is 3, 4, 5. So 1 and 2 we are not able to find there, right? So that's how we have to find it out. Okay. In other words, return the symmetric difference of the two arrays. We need not to go with another words because symmetric difference even seems like a jargon. We are not aware, right? So first line itself, I guess it's easy. Second milestone or the part of first milestone, just go through this input output. Yeah, 2 for loops is first or first approach should be definitely Molly. 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So what is the difference we have is it doesn't should return 4. Since 4 we have in the second element but not in the first. Okay, this is one. Second one is 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4 should return array with one item. Okay, definitely it will be the same. Now 1 calf, 3 piglet, 1 calf, 3 and 4. So what I see is piglet is different in the first one and 4 is the different one in the second one. Okay, so we have to take care of both the seconds. Okay, whatever unique element we have in first and whatever unique element we have in the second, both we have to merge together. We have to push to the resultant array, and that's how we have to return it. Okay, I hope it is now clear to you. So